What if the greatest spiritual technology ever designed wasn't a temple of stone, but the very architecture of your own spine? And what if, dormant within that biological structure, lies a fire, a latent force capable of transmuting the lead of your everyday consciousness into the gold of pure awareness? We spend our lives trying to change our circumstances, convinced that happiness is a puzzle to be solved by rearranging the pieces outside of us. We believe we are a finished story, a fixed identity carved by experience. But what if that identity is just the raw material, the prima materia of the ancient alchemists, the base substance waiting for the right catalyst to begin the great work? The journey we are about to embark on is not about learning a new philosophy. It's about uncovering a forgotten science, an inner engineering encoded in our very being. It suggests that you are not a static noun, but a transformative verb. The question isn't whether you can change, it's whether you're brave enough to ignite the fire that was always meant to burn. We operate under a silent, unexamined assumption that the world out there is a fixed, solid reality, and the I looking out is a stable, singular entity. We see a tree and think, I see a tree. Simple, separate, solid. This is the perception of lead, heavy, dense, and opaque. But ancient wisdom traditions propose a radical alternative. They suggest that the I is not a single thing at all. It is a compound, a complex mixture of thoughts, fears, memories, and ancestral echoes. And the world isn't a fixed landscape. It's a mirror, perfectly reflecting the quality of the substance that is looking at it. Imagine for a moment that your body and mind are not a home you inhabit, but an alchemist's laboratory, a living furnace, an athanor. The self you believe you are? That is the prima materia, the raw, chaotic, unpurified material placed within the vessel. It's not the final product. It's the starting point. This prima materia isn't a passive substance waiting quietly in the dark. It is a battlefield. It is the war of opposites that rages within every human being, the very conflict Carl Jung would later identify as the engine of the psyche. It's the part of you that craves stability at war with the part that yearns for freedom. The persona you present to the world, struggling against the shadow you hide in the depths. We experience this not as a grand philosophical problem, but as the friction of daily life. It's the feeling of being a house divided against itself, the inexplicable self-sabotage, the promises we break to ourselves, the knowing what is right and yet choosing what is easy. We label this as weakness, as a flaw in our character. But the alchemists saw it differently. To them, this inner chaos, this war of light and shadow, was not a mistake to be fixed. It was the signature of potential. It was the proof that the raw material was potent, charged with the very energy needed for its own transformation. They understood that without this tension, no heat could be generated, and without heat, the great work could never begin. The conflict isn't the problem, it's the fuel. In this inner laboratory, perception is not a window, but a process of distillation. The quality of your consciousness determines the reality you are capable of perceiving. When the inner substance is dense and unrefined, your reality is filtered through the lens of survival, separation, and fear. You see a world of solid objects and competing forces. But what happens when you apply heat? What happens when a transformative energy begins to rise through the system, purifying this substance stage by stage? The very nature of perception begins to change. The world doesn't alter, but your capacity to see it does. This is the fundamental secret of inner alchemy. The goal isn't to change the world, but to refine the perceiver. If this is true, if we are all alchemists in our own private laboratories, then where is the manual for this great work? The manual for this great work is not a single book, but a hidden library with chapters written across continents and centuries. In the valleys of Kashmir, the tantric yogis mapped this inner world with breathtaking precision. They described the human spine as the axis mundi, the world's pillar, and called it the Sushumna. At its base, coiled and sleeping, lies the goddess Kundalini Shakti. She is pure, raw, undifferentiated cosmic energy. She is the potential within the prima materia. Her counterpart, Shiva, represents pure, formless consciousness residing at the crown. The entire spiritual journey, they taught, is the sacred union of these two forces, the slow, deliberate ascent of Shakti to unite with Shiva. This is the divine dance of energy and awareness. But halfway across the world, in secret laboratories filled with smoke and strange symbols, another group of seekers were drawing an almost identical map. the alchemists of Europe. Their coded language spoke of turning lead into gold, a phrase we have long dismissed as primitive chemistry. Funny how we often miss the most profound secrets by taking them literally. The alchemists were not metallurgists. They were psychologists of the highest order. Their great work, the magnum opus, was a brilliant and elaborate metaphor for the transformation of the human soul. Their furnaces, the Athanor, were not made of brick and mortar. They were a symbol for the human body, the vessel which contains the fire of transformation. And their secret fire, the mysterious agent that begins the process? What else could it be but that same dormant energy the yogis called Shakti? The evidence is encoded in their symbols. The 7 stages of the alchemical process, each governed by a planet and corresponding to a metal, mirror the 7 energy centers of the Eastern map, from the dense dark lead of Saturn at the base to the radiant, incorruptible gold of the Sun at the crown. It is the same journey told in a different tongue. It was the psychologist Carl Jung who rediscovered this key, recognizing alchemy as a sophisticated blueprint for what he called individuation, the process of integrating the shadow and becoming a whole, unified self. This isn't just a coincidence of 7s. The parallels run deeper, woven into the very fabric of their symbolism. The yogic path describes 2 primary energy channels flanking the central column, Ida and Pingala. Ida is the lunar, cool feminine current. Pingala is the solar, hot masculine current. The goal is to balance these opposites, allowing the central energy of Shakti to rise unimpeded through the Sushumna. Now look at the central symbol of Western esotericism, the caduceus of Hermes. 2 serpents intertwined around a central staff. It is the exact same energetic diagram. One serpent representing the moon, the other the sun, the staff representing the spine. Hermes, the messenger of the gods, the master of duality, was often called the divine alchemist. The symbol he carries isn't just a staff of power, it's a diagram of the awakened human nervous system. This suggests a shared, ancient understanding of human potential, a philosophia perennis or perennial philosophy, as Aldous Huxley would call it. A universal truth that bubbles up in different cultures, wearing the unique masks of their mythology and symbols, but always pointing to the same moon. It tells us that the journey of transformation is not an invention of one culture, but a discovery about the fundamental nature of being human itself. If these ideas resonate with you, and you wish to continue this hunt for the hidden connections in our shared human story, consider subscribing so we can explore these mysteries together. 2 different languages, 1 universal instruction manual. If both East and West created the same hidden map for the soul's evolution, what are the actual steps on this alchemical path? The alchemical journey through the 7 centers is a process of purification by fire. Each stage refines the prima materia of our consciousness, burning away a specific illusion and unlocking a new way of perceiving reality. Let's walk through the first stages of this transformation. First, the stage of lead, the root, the concept. This is the base center, the foundation of the laboratory. In alchemy, it corresponds to Saturn and the metal lead. Its world is that of pure, dense, physical existence. The primary drive here is one thing: survival, the clear explanation. This means your consciousness is fundamentally wired to see the world in terms of threat and security. Your thoughts orbit around safety, money, shelter, and belonging to a tribe. Reality feels solid, separate, and often hostile. It's the logic of us versus them, not enough to go around, and life is a struggle. The human experience. Think about the knot in your stomach when you worry about paying the bills. That's the energy of the root. Think of the primal fear that flashes when you walk alone in the dark. That is the voice of this center. It's not evil or unspiritual. It is the necessary grounding that keeps the laboratory from exploding. The bridge to practice. The work here isn't to escape physical reality, but to master it with awareness. The question isn't, how can I become more spiritual? But, what is my relationship with the material world telling me? Is your financial life chaotic? Is your body neglected? The practice is to bring order and consciousness to these foundations, not to pretend they don't matter. You must first master the lead before you can transform it. Let's delve deeper into the nature of this inner metallurgy. This isn't a linear checklist, but a cyclical process of refinement. The alchemical paradox of the lead stage is subtle but crucial. In our modern quest for spiritual highs, we often commit what is called spiritual bypassing, using spiritual ideas to avoid dealing with our messy human problems. We want to fly into the cosmos before we've learned to walk on the earth. The alchemists knew this was a fool's errand. They taught that the gold is hidden in the lead. The path to the stars begins with your feet firmly on the ground. A tree cannot reach for the heavens without deep roots in the darkness of the soil. So, the mastery of the root is not about accumulating wealth, but about achieving a state of profound stability from which the true ascent can begin, a peace with the material world that frees your energy for higher things. Second, the stage of quicksilver, the sacral, the concept. The fire of Shakti awakens and begins to warm the vessel. We move from solid lead to liquid quicksilver, or mercury. This is the second center, the realm of flow, emotion, and creation. The clear explanation. Perception shifts from rigid matter to flowing energies. You begin to sense the world not just as objects, but as a sea of attractions and repulsions, desires and aversions. Creativity awakens, but so does emotional turbulence. This is the artist's temperament, seeing beauty and possibility, but also feeling every emotional current, often without boundaries. The human experience. Remember the overwhelming rush of a first crush, the ecstasy of getting lost in a creative project. That is the unrefined energy of quicksilver, but so is the sting of jealousy, the drama of unstable relationships, and the feeling of being pulled under by waves of emotion you can't control. The bridge to practice. The alchemical work here is to contain the liquid without freezing it. The practice is not to suppress emotion, but to observe its flow without becoming it. When a strong emotion arises, the question becomes, what is this energy asking me to create, rather than who is it asking me to blame? It's about channeling the creative force of emotion rather than being drowned by it. When we move to quicksilver, the seductive nature of mercury becomes the central test. Quicksilver is beautiful, fluid and reflective, but it is also famously toxic. It represents the mind's ability to connect ideas, to feel empathy, to create art. But uncontained, it leads to what the alchemists called a dissipated state. This is the modern condition of endless distraction, emotional reactivity, and being pulled in 1,000 directions by fleeting desires. The poison of quicksilver is a life lived on the surface, shimmering with potential but lacking true depth or direction. The alchemical task is to build a strong vessel of awareness that can hold this potent creative energy without being poisoned by its chaos. Third, the stage of iron, the solar plexus, the concept. The fire intensifies. The liquid metal begins to forge a structure. This is the third center, the realm of iron, governed by Mars. It's the stage of building the individual will, the ego. The clear explanation. Here, consciousness learns to shape reality. You develop personal power, discipline, and the ability to impose your will on the world to achieve your goals. It's where you separate from the tribe and say, I am. This is a crucial stage of self-definition. The human experience. This is the drive that builds careers, runs marathons, and forges empires. It's the feeling of ambition, the satisfaction of achieving a difficult goal. But its shadow is the lust for power, the need to control, and the arrogance of believing you are the sole author of your success. It's the final boss of the ego, as many gurus have demonstrated. The bridge to practice. The alchemical secret here is called calcinatio, a purification by fire. The practice is to consciously test the ego against a greater principle. It involves asking, is this action coming from a place of authentic power or from a place of insecurity? Does my strength serve only myself, or does it serve something larger? The goal is to temper the iron of the will so it becomes a tool for the heart, not a weapon for the ego. And in the stage of iron, the distinction between a tyrant and a sovereign is the entire lesson. An untempered ego, the brittle iron, is a tyrant. It is rigid, defensive, and shatters under pressure. It builds its castle of identity on a foundation of fear, fear of not being enough, fear of losing control. The alchemical fire tempers this iron into steel, creating the sovereign. The sovereign ego is strong yet flexible. Its power doesn't come from dominating others, but from a deep, unshakable connection to its own authentic core. It doesn't need to prove itself, because it knows itself. This is the spiritual warrior archetype, wielding the sword of a disciplined will, not for conquest, but for the protection of the heart. These first three stages are the lesser work of alchemy. They are about building a strong, stable, and purified vessel. Only when this foundation is secure can the true transformation, the greater work of the heart, truly begin. The vessel is strong, the will is tempered. The alchemist is finally the master of his own laboratory. He has brought order to the chaos of his inner world and stands ready to begin the greater work, to ascend to the higher centers of consciousness. But here, at the doorway to the heart, the great work presents its most terrifying, most beautiful paradox. The fire you have so carefully controlled was never your tool. It is a goddess with her own purpose. And the you that has been doing all this work, the sovereign, the spiritual warrior, the master of the inner kingdom, is not the one who will reach the end. The entire first half of the journey, the lesser work, was about building a perfect king, a strong, sovereign, integrated ego. The second half of the journey, the greater work, begins with his willing sacrifice. From the ego's perspective, this is the ultimate act of betrayal. The spiritual path, which promised ultimate power and self-mastery, has led it to an executioner's block. It is a cosmic bait and switch. This is the terror of the abyss, the dark night of the soul that mystics speak of. It's the point where every tool you have honed, discipline, willpower, intellect, becomes not only useless but an obstacle. The path forward is not found by climbing higher, but by letting go of the entire ladder. This stage is known in alchemy as the mortificatio, the death or blackening. It is the moment the alchemist realizes the gold cannot be created as long as the lead, his own sense of a separate self, still thinks it's in charge. He must allow his carefully constructed identity to be dissolved, cooked in the darkness, and reduced to pure, unformed essence. But the great secret, the one whispered only in the most hidden alchemical texts, is this: the abyss the ego fears is a fiction. What feels like a death from one perspective is a birth from another. The void is not empty, it is a womb, and the terror of annihilation is simply the shadow cast by the light of a far greater identity waiting to be born. This is the secret that separates mere self-improvement from true transformation. The heart center is not a throne room for the perfected ego to sit upon and rule. It is an altar, and the price of entry is the dissolution of the very self you have worked so hard to build. The alchemist must step into his own furnace. The king must surrender his crown. The goal was never to create a more powerful I, but to annihilate the illusion of I altogether, so that a universal consciousness, the one true self, can finally look through your eyes. So what if the ultimate purpose of individuation isn't to become a whole person, but to become a perfect doorway? A worthy vessel for a consciousness that is vast, ancient, and utterly impersonal? What if the goal of life isn't to find yourself, but to lose yourself so completely that only God remains? So, what happens after the king is sacrificed? What rises from the ashes of the ego? The alchemists called this stage the conjunctio, the sacred marriage. It is the union of the purified human consciousness with the divine. The goddess Shakti, having ascended to the heart, finally unites with Shiva. The solar and lunar currents, the masculine and feminine, the inner king and queen, merge into one. The world outside remains the same. The bills still need to be paid. The mundane realities of life continue, but the one who experiences them is fundamentally different. The central operating system has been rewritten. The primary implication is a radical shift in motivation. The life of the ego is driven by the logic of scarcity and acquisition, the need to get love, get security, get validation. It operates from a sense of lack. After the conjunctio, the driving force becomes the logic of abundance and emanation. The question is no longer what can I get, but what can I give? The heart, now opened, becomes a radiant sun. Compassion is no longer a moral duty. It is a simple law of physics, a natural overflow from a source that is infinite. This shift creates a new relationship with your own life story. Your personal history, with all its traumas and triumphs, is no longer a script you are forced to endlessly repeat. It becomes a library, filled with lessons you can consult, but its emotional gravity no longer holds you in orbit. The you that was wounded is gone. Only the wisdom of the wound remains. The tyranny of the past is broken. But this freedom comes with a profound and sometimes sorrowful clarity. You begin to see the architecture of suffering itself. You see how the illusion of the separate self is the root cause of every conflict, every cruelty, every desperate act of greed. It is a terrible and clarifying vision, like seeing the code behind a tragic play that everyone else believes is real. This creates the most profound isolation and the most profound connection simultaneously. You are deeply connected to everyone at the level of being, yet you inhabit a reality they cannot see. How do you communicate a color to a person born in a black and white world? You can't describe it. You can only try to live in such a way that you radiate it. You don't have the philosopher's stone. You become it, a living catalyst that by its very presence helps to subtly transmute the lead in its environment. This also brings a terrifying new form of freedom and responsibility. When you no longer identify with the small separate self, you begin to perceive the interconnectedness of all things. You see your own actions not as isolated events, but as ripples in a vast cosmic ocean. The suffering of another is no longer truly other. Their joy is not separate from your own. This isn't a beautiful poetic idea. It's a direct, sometimes painful perception of reality. It becomes impossible to act from a place of pure self-interest because the self has expanded to include the whole. You have become the guardian of a much larger fire than just your own ambition. And here lies the ethical challenge for eternity. How do you move through a world that is still largely asleep? How do you honor the truth of this boundless connection while navigating a reality built on the illusion of separation? The great work doesn't end with awakening. It begins. The alchemical journey, the ascent of Shakti, is not just a path to personal fulfillment. It is a process of cosmic remembrance. It suggests that the universe itself is engaged in its own great work, a vast alchemical process of turning the lead of unconscious matter into the gold of self-aware divinity. And we are not merely spectators to this cosmic drama. We are its crucibles. We are the laboratories where God, the alchemist, conducts the ultimate experiment, the experiment of forgetting itself in order to have the joy of remembering. Perhaps the human spine is not just a biological structure, but a divine antenna designed to receive and transmit consciousness. And this dormant fire, this Kundalini Shakti, is not a mere energy but the signature of a promise, a pact made at the dawn of time that no part of the divine would be left behind in the darkness of forgetting. This re-enchants the entire human experience. Every struggle is not a punishment, but a friction necessary to generate heat. Every moment of suffering is not a mistake, but the pressure needed to turn carbon into diamond. Your life is not a random collection of events. It is a meticulously designed alchemical operation. The ultimate dilemma, then, is not whether God exists, but whether you are willing to participate in your own becoming. Are you brave enough to be the vessel for this transformation? Are you willing to face the fire, to surrender the king, and to become the living philosopher's stone that doesn't just find the gold, but emanates it? The goddess is not just hiding in your spine. She is patiently waiting to be recognized as the very force that is looking through your eyes right now. Liked this journey? Hit subscribe for more mysteries. And that's our hunt for now. A wild mix of documented history and tantalizing what-ifs based on bibliographical sources. What do you think?